Michael Meehan is with us this morning to look back and sift through the wreckage of the All-Ireland final draw. Michael, what's your take now, 48 hours out, about whether or not Kerry left this behind them?
Morning, Ger. Yeah, God, there's so much to digest out of it. Having been up there on the day, I haven't got back to seeing anything of it on the telly bar, maybe the Sunday game. So I must sit down and take the time to go through it again, because it was all consuming on the day. It wasn't because of the huge, maybe high quality levels at times, but it was just, the magnitude of it, how high stakes, the game was. And then you have the moments when Cluxton is out marking Tommy Walsh and Kerry are overloading on Dublin's kick out. So it was so much to take in. It was phenomenal. I'm guessing at this stage, the players are kind of coming back down.
You've got Owen's attention there. He didn't see the Tommy Walsh Cluxton thing.
Yeah, I'd say it's something I missed, to be quite honest with you, Michael.
Yeah, it was very late on. It was in the period of the game. Maybe Dublin might have been down a point, and I forget. I think it was Kerry were in possession, but they were being pinned quite high up. But yeah, Cluxton had to come out, and I think, in fact, there might have even been another man on the other side of the pitch that he ignored. Now, there obviously was a plan for someone to break back and cover, but just when you see there's so much going on here and there's so much at stake, and the lengths that they're prepared to go to now, that teams are prepared to go to, and then even then you kind of had the line-out jump ready with the two Kerry lads on the line for the last three as well. So I think all that just raises it up, and it's amazing to see as an ex-player and now as a fan, I suppose, to see what's going on. But I think the next few days now it kind of boils down to leaders in the group, probably performance analysis or sports psychologists, to really kind of get a bit of clarity of thought into the players, because the bodies are still recovering. It's going to take a few days for anyone who played 60, 70 minutes. It's going to take a few more days, but it's just getting the mindset right now and getting the clarity as to see where can the improvements be made. I think there's a huge improvement for both sides. Kerry, Kerry left an awful lot behind on the scoreboard, essentially. What I wouldn't have associated with David Clifford was just, a couple of the whites he's kicked. I don't think he'll do that the next day, or the missed cues as well. I don't think he'll do that the next day, because he had the time and space, and he's just super clinical. And he's going to get loads of chances again, irrespective of who is marking him. So there's huge improvements there on the Kerry front. Obviously, Dublin, the staying with 15 men is going to help them, looking for bigger performances from some of their mainstays all year as well. So, there's a whole, we nearly need a month kind of to lead into this one to kind of cross off everything.
I think the big takeaway for me was that this Kerry team, they're going to be a real team for the next ages. That what we saw from them last year when they couldn't get out of the Super 8s was actually just not the true reflection of the quality that they have within them, and that they're going to be led by Clifford and O'Shea for the next decade, and it's going to be amazing for us to be able to sit back and watch that and enjoy it.
For sure, yeah. We've it's been highlighted for some time now. Sean O'Shea and David Clifford, the two that you've mentioned. They're once in a lifetime players, and they're there and they're together, and they're just phenomenal. And I'm delighted to see them as a GA fan, because they're the type of players. I think I've said this before, that every young fella or girl or boy in the counties across Ireland are going to be looking up to those lads, and they're going to be their inspiration for the next 10, 15 years. And I think that's only a positive on the sport. For Kerry, then, selfishly for them, they're just, they're going to be building a team around those guys. And, they have I suppose they have a balance of youth and experience there at the minute, but with all their underage success, if they could land this title in 2 weeks, that's going to just really bring them, storming back into the fold, where they kind of had slipped and dropped below their standards and everyone else's perceived standards of them in the last couple of years. So they're just going to come storming back. And I suppose with history and everything that's behind them, it was funny this week listening to all the calls to arms from the former great Kerry players, and I suppose the cynic in you could have thought they're just trying to create something out of nothing here, but whether it was that or whether it was that they really believed, in the heat of the hunt, I suppose they were proved right in the performance and the way it came about on Sunday. So they're in a really strong position.
But I was kind of thinking what you were saying there, Ger, as well, the last night after the draw. But then part of me kind of disagrees with that as well, just because you talk, Michael, about the fantastic underage teams and kind of nurturing that talent. But I think one of the key components about that we look back in a couple of years down the line is letting Mark O'Connor go to Australia, because while Jack Barry was very good at times last Sunday, the success to David Moran is still a bit of a question mark, and I think he's been absolutely unbelievable this year. So I think that's one kind of note of caution for Kerry in such a vital position. They don't exactly have a successor there. One thing I just wanted to ask was kind of, I know it's a while now since we've actually seen Dublin in a replay. It was 2015 in the semi-final against Mayo, 2016 in the final against Mayo.
Yeah.
What way did they tend to trend for you? How much better did they tend to get second time up?
I think certainly at that stage, they again there was very little between them, and the game that we saw the last day and the game we're likely to see the next day are going to be sort of similar to those Dublin Mayo contests that we had become familiar with. So it's just all on the line, high pressing, just literally teams prepared to go at each other for the 70-80 minutes. We would expect to see something different maybe if a Tyrone or a different type of team got into a final against Dublin or Kerry. So you'd expect, there's huge room for improvement for Dublin. I suppose the one small caveat is just provided that they have that little nugget, the fire is still burning wildly inside them, for this, because it's just maybe getting to a stage now where people are beginning to question, some of the lads who are there and maybe the age profile of some of them, albeit they've been the best players for a long number of time, but are cracks beginning to appear? Even if they're not, it's just, are the thoughts of cracks beginning to appear, maybe starting to seep in around the group or some of the players? And if there are, then, that's just something where we might just see, Dublin not getting to the peak of their performance in the replay that we might expect.
Yeah, look, that age profile thing is definitely something that's going to be a lot of focus on, and who makes the bench the next day is going to be almost as interesting as who actually starts the game. One last thing, there were strong rumours last night from very many well-placed GA journalists about the Galway job potentially opening up over the next while. What do you think is going to happen here?
I suppose it's one of these things, like, it's not a guarantee, but usually there's no smoke without a fire. And I did pick up on whispers at the back of the Hogan stand on Sunday. There was such a Galway people there up for the minor game as well, that something was happening, all right, and not too far from what has kind of come out in the last 12 hours, I suppose. So it's looking like that there may be a change coming, and I suppose it's just with everything that's gone on in the county in the last month, with there's extra scrutiny on the Galway County Board at the minute, rightly or wrongly, with no hurling manager in place at the minute, and what happened there. So I suppose maybe if there's something to come, they're trying to bring it about to the public in the best way possible. But if there's rumours out, then something needs to be said, sooner rather than later to put it to bed one way or the other. Yeah,
one quick question on that. We've seen a Galway club side produce some of the best football that we've watched in recent years. And we see the style of play that Kerry had to go up against the Dubs, and that the Dubs have had for the last number of years. Football's trending that direction. Is there an internal solution where you look at the stuff that's happening in the club scene and go, let's have a little bit of that in the inter-county scene too?
Yeah, perhaps. Definitely, there's probably a huge appetite for that around if a change were to come about. And there's a couple of key personnel. Now, some of them, I know Declan Bonner was ratified last night, and I don't know how the makeup of his backroom team, but like Stephen Rochford is strongly linked to that circuit with Currafin, and he and David Morris were spearheading Currafin for a few years during their successful period. Now it's Kevin O'Brien and David Morris, and I suppose that name David Morris might be overly familiar to some of you, but he was heavily involved with the Galway hurlers for the last couple of years as well in the backroom team. So he brings huge experience and has had success at All-Ireland level there, at inter-county level and club level. So, there's a huge talk around that. And then there's, Pádraig Joyce and John Divley took on the under-20s this year, and, they got involved. They won a Connacht. So I know if something was to happen, if news was to break, there's going to be huge clatter around those particular names. It's just funny the way it goes. Like, sometimes when you lose a manager, you got to be careful of what you wish for, and make sure that whoever comes in to replace, is who is of standard, is up to it, and is even going to raise the standard, because that's just what happens. Teams, if you're reproducing the same level year on year on year, you're going to slip behind behind the pack, because everyone is looking to improve year on year. And Galway, again, we seem to have a little bit of catching up to do to break into the top level. So, if there is a change, you got to be going after, the biggest and the brightest out there and backing them, because if you're not, I don't think you're giving yourself a fair chance to contest.
Yeah, no, look, you've been great with your time, Michael. I know you've got to go. Thanks a million for joining us this morning.
Thanks, lads. Bye.